Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Table Talk. I'm your host, Jake Combs, and today, as promised, we're returning to do some of our painting for the Tau portion of the Skies of Fire box set from Aeronautica Imperialis, and we also have a couple of unboxings to do along with it. So before we get to the painting, we'll do the unboxings first, but these are the different ships that we have. Did a base coat in Blood Angel's red contrast paint. We're going to do a touch up for a couple of spots that didn't dry as even, and then we're going to return to the actual general colors. Basically, I was just going to do a little bit of Black Templar contrast on there, and then once all that was dry, we're going to do a little no wash, and that's going to be pretty much it for those guys. So let me move these guys out of the way. And I do want to apologize for not having an episode last week with Halloween basically in the middle of my weekend from my day job. Kind of threw scheduling off for everything else and simply just ran out of time and was not able to actually get any filming done last week. So this first one we're unboxing is the Heavy Bombers for the side. Now, with these, other than the Mega Bomber, which is a Forge World exclusive, this is the last one for us for the Orc side. Hopefully they do another release of the Orc ground assets, and because that's the only other Orc item we're missing. And then we do have the Avenger Strike Fighters as well for the Astra Militarum side. On the back of the box, it does give you a couple color schemes for painting. So if you're looking for an actual color scheme, they're right there. Of those three, I definitely prefer the Death Cloud. But I do like, in general, a darker ship. I know orcs are typically not the more stealthy type, which is why my fleet is mostly purple and black. Now, it is a 3-page instruction booklet total for the assembly. Got a lot of different options. I do see that some of the big guns are going to be manned by looks like grots or orcs themselves. Probably orcs based on the size in relation to the size of the ship. Alright, and so those big guns are actually going to go on the top of the plane right here. So as always, they basically give you twice as many of these. That way, if you're looking for a specific height for them, you can do that, or you can do one of each. We have 2 of the standard bases. It also comes with a transfer sheet. And then it is a total of 2 sprues. This one is the bulk of the body and the wings. This looks like it's going to be the tailpiece, the top of the front end where the cockpit is, and then the engines themselves, and then all of the other add-ons and bombs and things like that. I love the detail that they put on the Aeronautica Imperialis items. They always do a fantastic job of those. I can't wait to get more of these things painted up so we can get some more games in. Of the original wave, though, there's only one Imperial ship left for us to get, and that is the Marauder Bomber. Or sorry, the Marauder Destroyer, because the original core set comes with a Marauder Bomber, two of them actually. So the Destroyer is the only one we're missing from that. For the Astra Militarum side, now that we have the Avenger Strike Fighter, I believe the only thing we're missing is the ground assets. And then, of course, the Forge World exclusives. Which, from what I understand, we will not be receiving anytime soon, if we are to ever receive them. Personally, I know that some people prefer the resin. Having worked with the resin itself, I much prefer their plastic for the main GW line instead of the Forge World line. Alright, so just like before, we have some paint schemes that they have on there for you. Now, anything Imperial related, especially Astra Militarum, I am going to be painting in the color scheme of the Apostles from Dan Abnett's Double Eagle, which all of my other Imperial ships are already in that color scheme, except for the ones that came in the Skies of Fire box set, only because I have yet to paint them. Alright, so this set comes with 4 ships, so 4 of the Avenger fighters. We have 4 bases, and that means we have 4 sets of the clear stands. Once again, it is another 3-page assembly guide. Now, the Imperial ships are much more straightforward. It's going to be a lot easier to build these, a lot faster, because there's a lot less customization. Because Orcs, they basically build everything haphazard, and almost nothing ever looks the same. Whereas the Imperium, everything is uniform, everything matches. And so it's going to be easier to identify, which faction they are based on that alone, even if it wasn't for the colors. We do have 2 sprues for this, and they are exactly the same. So we have, basically, it looks like, we have it cut in half, essentially, where 1/2 per ship, and with us having 2 sprues that are exactly the same, that means with that divide we get all 4 ships. Now, looking at it a bit closer, yeah, it definitely looks like it's divided out like that. Again, great detail. Personally, I do feel the Orc ships get a bit more detail. Might be because of how unique they're meant to look, where nothing is put together very effectively. So you kind of have a lot of odd parts sticking out here and there. So that might be why they have more detail. Imperial ships, are probably meant to be a bit more sleek, more stealthy, faster as well. With them being more sleek and less bulky, they are bound to have a lot less air resistance because of that. So I suspect that these planes are going to go much faster than the heavy bombers would, or even your traditional like Dakka jets. Definitely looking forward to playing those. Now, having never used any aircraft in 40K itself, I don't have any skewed perceptions on which one I think is the better plane because of that. So because with that in mind, I've gotten into this game not paying attention a lot to the feedback from other people as far as which planes work better in the 40K environment. For me, This is a fantastic game. One of my favorite tabletop games to come out, especially from GW, and honestly, that's saying a lot right there. Because I mean, before Age of Sigmar, you know, we had Warhammer Fantasy, which was a ton of fun. Age of Sigmar basically kind of made it more of a skirmish style off of that, with a rebuilding of the entire world. You know, that we have 40K, we have Necromunda, Gorka Morka, we have Warcry, which if I had to pick one, I'd probably say Warcry is my favorite. You know, then between Necromunda, Blackstone Fortress, and Aeronautica Imperialis, it's a very difficult second choice. The game is fantastic. Absolutely love it. Really looking forward to getting more games in, but a big part of that is getting the painting done, because I do not like to field ships that are not painted. Well, I don't like to field models that aren't painted either. All right, so as always, I have my water cup, and then I'm mostly going to be using just these two brushes. Not sure what brand this one is. This is kind of my my torn up junky brush. I've been using this brush itself for about almost 5 years, maybe 6 years now. It's definitely held up a lot longer than most other brushes. And then my detail brush that I like to use is a Winsor Newton. And it's amazing how you can find some really great brushes for really cheap. Like this Winsor Newton was $2 at Michael's Craft Store, and a majority of my friends that do painting, especially the ones that do commission painting, almost all of them swear by the Winsor Newton brand. And you know, most of the ones that they're paying for, they're paying directly from Winsor Newton. They're paying, you know, $20 to $30 a brush, and I have yet to find a reason to justify spending that much on just a single brush, when you know I can get 5 or 6 brushes for less than that, especially ones that are going to give you a nice fine detail. As long as you keep the brush clean and you know, treat it well, and make sure you're always painting in you know, single directions, so it's less likely to spread like this one did. It's going to hold up much longer for you. This particular one, usually my fine tip brushes like this. This one is a size 0 brush. Typically, those brushes, because of how aggressive I paint, how haphazard I paint, they typically last about a month at most. But this brush itself, I've had since February, maybe March, so nice long time, and it's definitely holding up quite well. Basically every time I go to rinse the brush, I always use my brush cleaner and preserver, so that way, you know, it gets that lather in there, breaks up the paint so it doesn't actually stick the bristles together, and it just holds up much better. Like this one, that was before I learned how to use the brush cleaner properly, and it actually has a lot of caked in paint that's kind of messing with the brush, so it's a lot harder to actually return this one back to its original shape because of that. I've tried multiple times and have yet to get it to work right, but I do know that, you know, for curled brushes like these, it's also really good to use really hot or at least very warm water, and then, you know, kind of after it soaks in that for a little while, then kind of move it to the shape that you want it to, and you're more likely to return some of that shape. But it's going to take a lot of dedication, a lot of effort in order to do that. And then we're also getting my dry brush as soon as I can find it. There it is. So I prefer the small dry brush for models about this size. I have a excuse me. I have a large dry brush that is saved specifically for terrain. I mean, it is easily about twice the width of this at least. All right, so got the main brushes we're going to work with. I'm just grabbing the paints we're going to be using. So Contrast Blood Angels Red and Contrast Black Templar are the main ones we're going to use. Now, as always, you want to make sure you shake your paint up quite a bit. That way it's going to give you a much more consistent paint job. All right. And with Halloween being last week, I do hope everyone had a fun and safe time, those that participated. I know with COVID, it definitely made things a bit more difficult. There were several houses in our neighborhood that normally participate that did not participate at all this year because of the virus. But several that did actually created these nice, fun kind of candy slides where they can like stay at their front porch and then send candy down through that slide, so that way they're not getting close to any of the children or any of the families, and vice versa. So I really appreciate those families that did that, because it allowed our kids to participate with minimal risk. Now, one thing we've always been adamant though is that they always wear masks, and it was nice to see that a lot of the families that were out and about in our neighborhood were doing the same thing. So while using this brush, since everything is the same color as the base coat, I'm not being overly careful with where it goes. Just want to make sure that it gets all of the recesses that were missed the first time. So those of you that have played I'm curious, of the 4 factions we have, the original Imperial, the Astra Militarum, the Tau, or the Orc, first off, which faction is your favorite, but also which faction, or specifically which ship, is your favorite for that faction. I know for the Orcs, out of the 4 factions, I prefer the Astra Militarum ships to the regular Imperial Army or Imperial Navy or whatever, because of the style. But out of the 4 factions, appearance alone, I would have to say the Orcs, because of how original you can make the ships, the fact that they're made to have dozens to hundreds of combinations to minimize different players duplicating the exact same ship, because it's not, Orc ships are not meant to look like I was saying before. Now we're gonna give that a minute to dry, and while we are, I'm gonna bring up these dropper tops that we received from Dr. Tabletop. It's actually an Arizona-based company that has designed these bottles to actually fit on the Citadel range lids, to actually replace them and turn them into dropper bottles, where normally you'd have to transfer it to your own dropper bottle in order to do that, which I've done. It is very tedious and frustrating. And then they've also sent us a couple of their agitator balls. Now, I haven't swapped any of these out yet, because they actually have a very specific video to watch. They'll actually walk you through doing the installation properly. And so personally, the only bottles that, or the only regular paint that they offer from Citadel that I don't like putting in the dropper bottles are their metallics, because most mediums separate the metallic pigment from the regular, and so it's much harder to paint with. It gets kind of more goopy and lumpy when doing that. So having these lids on there, putting in an agitator ball or two, that's going to allow you to break it up more, make it more even, and use it like a dropper bottle without having to do that medium to thin it out. Now, one of the guys at our local shop, Games U, he was telling me that he's actually found a way that you can dilute this without getting it to separate like it does, or become as lumpy, and that's simply actually using very, very purified water. And so like places like Intel, for example, some of their machines require absolutely pure water, and so he has friends that work there that will actually basically fill up a water bottle for him about once a month with that water, give it to him, and then he uses that to dilute these paints, because your regular water that you get out of the tap has minerals in it naturally, and so that can help degrade the paint more. So using that purified water, which is a lot better than distilled water, and distilled is better than tap water, though, for those that don't know, in regards to painting. But doing it, you get a much more even consistency, which is what we're looking for there. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and open up the Black Templar. Now, I always save these little protectors for the bristles. That will also help maintain their shape. All right. Almost done with this ship. Of course, you need to do a couple spots on the bottom. Alright, so the top layer is done. I'm very happy with the result. I wanted to keep most of it that red. So typically, when most of you are painting, do you do it while watching something, listening to music, or do you prefer keeping things pretty silent while you do your work? I know personally for me, I like to have something on, but more for the noise than anything else. Now, one thing I thought was odd was with the original release of the ground assets being in plastic, the second release for the Tau and the Astra Militarum, those are the Forge World resin instead. Kind of surprised me that they didn't follow the same scheme that or printing style that they did for the first set. Now it could be, and I'm just speculating here, could be that they didn't sell nearly as many as they expected, and Forge World tends to kind of do more of the print on demand style. So maybe it's, they're only doing what's ordered and not more because of possible excess units of the original. Of course, I suspect that if that were the case, then that would mean that all of these shops that have been trying to get in more of the ground units for the original set and haven't been able to, tells me that they likely did sell out. And haven't been able to restock since. Now next week we will likely not be doing any painting because we got a ton of stuff to unbox for Warcry, as well as the final expansion for Blackstone Fortress. And then once we do that one, it leaves us with only one Blackstone Fortress expansion that we have yet to find. Of course, I did find it in Italian, but seeing as I don't speak Italian, it's not going to do me a lot of good. Of course, that being said, you know, sometimes beggars can't be choosers, and might be worth ordering it and then just having like a translation guide for the cards and the stats that I can't read. Alright, so both of the bombers are done. Quite happy with how those came out. I just need to do the wash of Nuln Oil on there. Just make sure I didn't do anything different. Yeah, they're both the same. Alright. So for the little ships, I plan on doing it a little bit different, specifically in regards to the wings. One thing that you'll want to do though when painting with the contrast paints is still clean your brush regularly, because the contrast paints do dry quite quickly and you don't want that to gunk up your brush and cause you to paint a section that you didn't intend to paint. So we're done with the black. All right. So almost any painter will tell you that Nuln Oil is almost the lifeblood of a painter's arsenal, especially in games like 40K and Warhammer and Age of Sigmar, because they always refer to it as grimdark. Everything is meant to be very dark and ominous and scary. And Nuln Oil is a way to achieve that easily. One effect that I really like about it is it makes everything look very dirty and worn. Of course, it would be very helpful to like sell it by the bucket, and then you could just literally take the lid off, dip your miniature except for like one wing or something like that, and then everything's got a nice coating of Nuln Oil rather quickly too. All right, one down, 4 to go. I think because of the size and the overall effect I want to achieve, with the looking dark and dirty, I don't think I'm going to do many, if any, highlights on these. That way they keep that dark and dirty look. All right. All right, there we go. So definitely happy with how they came out. Very simple color scheme. Like I said, it's literally just the three colors: the Black Templar contrast, the Blood Angels red contrast, and then Nuln Oil. And you get a very nice detailed, very deep red, and really digging that. So we're just let those sit for a good half hour or so, let them really dry out before putting them back in the box. Next time we do some painting, we're going to actually get started on the Imperial ships from Skies of Fire. But we will not be starting that next week because of all of the unboxings we have. Like I said, we have a bunch of Warcraft stuff, and then the latest Blackstone Fortress. So some things to look forward to there. But that's it for me for this week. Oh yeah, also we'll be trying out the Dr. Tabletop drop tops, as well as their agitator beads. So more things to look forward to. That's it for this week. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, I'll catch you later. Good night.